You know, so everybody comes at astrology differently and uses the language in different ways. I'm just trying to remember everyone here's a student and we're going through, so I'm trying to bring that as an extra factor into the interpretation. Okay, so we saw the Sun, Mercury, Mars, the need to express, to communicate, do it. The Jupiter, it's around friends. It's wanting to be seen. Jupiter's in Leo, in the 11th house. I want friends. I want to be known by a lot of people. I want to travel. I want to see things. I want to be understood. I want there. And so there's an enthusiasm around friendships and doing things. There's a need to perform, 5th house, and a need to see how it all fits in, see how it makes sense to other people. That's the Jupiter in the 11th. And there's some benefit, like he could meet a lot of people, have a lot of really good friends, but they're not likely to be friends that are close to his home. His friends may not be in the same agreement to his family or the style he grew up in. So if he's working, if he were working and had a kid at home or was sitting at home, he might have friends that the wife doesn't want in the house, or the wife doesn't like. Wow, then he would go out to friends, but then you see the disruption, the anger, the communications, the blocks, the challenges that will come up from that. Well, lots of people have that. It's not the end of the world, but it's a unique dynamic. And whenever he runs into the outer things, a chance to do things or make impression or do things, he's going to be on go with it with that Jupiter on the handle of the bucket. And the need to have teams or groups and be part of them, to show people, to learn from them. Because his Jupiter is so strongly influential on the Mercury and Pisces, on the squaring the moon, he's going to want to reach out, but he's not going to be encouraged by the family to go out this way or that way. No, that's not right. This isn't right. This is the way. You've got to do it differently. So there's going to be an ongoing struggle with here. So even if he met somebody he loved, their girlfriend, or met somebody who really liked their wife, it's not necessarily that it's going to be an easy fit into the family. It's going to, someone getting close to him will have to run into his Pluto Venus and run into his Saturn Mercury. He may not express when he's not happy, he may pull away, and you say, why are you pulling away? You know, like, and normally he wants to talk, but he's threatening to pull away. So he takes in impressions, but he wants to express himself, but he's limited as an expression because it's an emotional complex of his sense of self-worth, and which he has to work on and get good at things. Venus, once he's good at something and he's really good at it, it will build up his confidence to express himself and the ability to judge and ascertain who's a good friend, who's not, who's supportive, who's not. So the Jupiter and the understanding will eventually come in, but you have to have many good and bad experiences before your understanding kicks in about it. Okay, Saturn in the 12th house. That's the difficulty with dad, difficulty with authority, difficulty with responsibility. How do you find career? What am I supposed to do? Often you have to work behind the scenes and work and dedicate. I have the Saturn here with Pluto, so like there's a tendency to be really, like, for all the effort, who cares? For all the effort, who cares? But I had difficulty with my dad. I had problems. I've had 3 divorces, so I've had difficulties with commitments and difficult things. But I do have a son and 4 grandkids, which are very close to. But still, I have karma and a lot of things to understand in that area, and it didn't come easy. So my career, when if I go and try and get a job, people say, you do what? If I try and go get something, because I worked independently. So he's going to have difficulty with authority, with ambition. So he's insecure in his values, but at the same time, like his dad didn't talk to him. What am I going to do for career? He's angry, he's strategic, he wants to do things, but there's a restraint, there's an inhibition, a caution. The Saturn at 12th house is something that needs to be overcome. It can be overcome by spiritual disciplines, a regular meditation, a regular yoga, some Tai Chi. So definite spiritual disciplines would channel that Saturn at 12th house very well. Doesn't mean I think that he was, but it would hold himself together rather than looking for it from other people. He doesn't get the respect or the position. Other people won't walk in and just give him the job this way or that way. Like he's always having to work harder than everyone else, or feeling he's a bit of the outsider. But the Saturn in the 12th house, when it comes to the tendency feeling, if you're projecting your seriousness and your worries from the rising thing, you're going to meet people just relating to you like you're worrying. So how do you have to project your accomplishment, your respect, your achievements, and you're projecting those out, especially if you're afraid of bad feedback? You're going to be cautious, and that caution limits the friendships and limits who one attracts and what one achieves in life. But there's just a reserve. It doesn't fit in here. It doesn't fit in here. So what in business situations doesn't exactly fit in. He's going to have trouble with bosses or authority figures. And be sensitive to what he's paid enough or not. So the responsibilities weigh extra heavy on him. That worry of that Saturn weighs on his mind because it opposes the Mercury and limits how far he would go and do things. So the Saturn itself is not afflicted. It's not a bad aspect. It's in the 12th house. So that's the spiritual work and having to clean up the mess ups that happen around you. How to not make things worse. How to know who's not a friend. How to not get involved here. How to not get there. So he has the enthusiasm to want to communicate, but he has these breaks that say, "Wait a second," and the breaks are valid. So is the enthusiasm. Okay, now. The guy, if he played in a band or if he was creative, was an athlete, or not so much inclined to the athlete with Uranus squaring this stuff. He could play, do something radical, but he would do something radical with some people who don't like to be alone specifically. And so there's a part of wanting to be a team player, but the rules, the disciplines, what's fair, what's not fair, there's a tendency to feel the outsider. Anyways, and that ties, that Saturn in Virgo ties into the Virgo ascendant, which is self-critical. So he has a worry side. What's that song? Don't worry, be happy. He should be playing that all the time. But he'd be thinking, yeah, right, don't worry. Look, all these worries, how can he be happy? Like, there's these different sides. You meet the person, you're not going to see this person. You'll see so much shy, reserved, quiet person, and you smile at him and talk to him, he'll be happy to talk. Like, that's his nice energy. That's nice energy. But when it gets close, it gets more awkward. When it gets demanding, it gets more awkward. When it gets judgmental or so sensitive of what jobs one has to, what commitments have to be there, there's going to be sensitivities around this. So he's going to have difficulty with authority, his own and other people's. So the inhibition gets solved by ambition and by achieving something. How does he believe what's worth achieving? Puzzle. Okay. We're just like each planet's like a branch on a tree with all the stuff, all the leaves and everything went blowing in the wind. We're looking at the whole tree and then we're going looking at a branch at a time. It's not the whole story, it's just pieces. But by going over them, you're not defining for you, you're just tuning into things, and sometimes they begin to fit together. Sometimes they sit there in a puzzle till you see something's happening. Oh, it's working like that. Oh, they're going to respond like that. So when I'm interpreting this, I'm trying not trying to define a person. I'm trying to tune and say, oh, here's these vulnerabilities. The aspects are telling me vulnerabilities. Still, even with the difficult aspects, he still has to use Jupiter in the 11th house in Leo and make the best of his friends. And he has to go with that. He still has to use Saturn in Libra. It's in the 12th house. So he has to be selective about what he works at, and he has to be best at what he does. So he's going to work overly hard to improve things. And that ties in with the Mercury in the 6th, trying to improve things, but not necessarily believing. So his mind is trying to believe, is surrounded by judgments and things that are saying that's not real. So how can I believe? How can I believe? Like some mental encouragement, things that build up his intelligence, that reinforce that would bring out a strong suit. So this very strategy is very complex. It might be awkward socially, or otherwise, it's a brilliant factor for astrology. Would explain a lot of things to him. He could be a very good astrologer because of this. But he's not the most sympathetic. He's alert, he's perceptive, he's insightful. And he, like a musician, alert, sensitive to time, to place, to when things happen, and knowing how to make the impression, he has that. Being supportive for it, that's another thing. But he could see when other people could do that or not too. So, okay. So the other planets, we really just see them in the houses. They're in Uranus in the second house. So his moon's in the second house, which means there's a need to have financial security. At the same time, with Jupiter, there's a tendency to exaggerate how much is needed. The needs are exaggerated, but the moon also fluctuates wherever it is. So that means it implies money is up and down. It comes in at times, it goes at times. And it's a puzzle. It's not the most stable place, although he wants it to be. Uranus in the second house implies there's a need to get money exciting ways, but it's difficult to find money in this. There's need to be independent, but there's instability and insecurity. It'd be difficult to take a regular job to get enough money. You get tired, you break away. So both of these factors are not stable factors in the houses of resources and money and values. So he's insecure and worries about how good he could be, how stable he is. That insecurity can drive an artist to really express something, or to write a song, or to perform with something. It can be an inner motivation to achieve something. But in outer social things, that worry, if you're worrying about money, it almost makes it more difficult to make money. But his money comes up and down. Like, I'm sure a lot of people in the world have that. Like, money is not as stable. Not everybody has a fixed, stable job for 50 years. Some people do. You could say that's a reward. It might be a punishment because you're locked in a certain way. But the Uranus does add the worry or the anxiety, the unstable, the unconventional finances and values. Says, need to do something different to be special. Because in the normal way of things, he's not getting support. In family, he's not going to get the support. In place, is not without conditions on it. But to do something special, what friends I would find him exciting and do, well, that's something that Uranus can pick up to. So he has that excitement. Can you live up to this? The moon. So there's a puzzle between how he gets out of the house to get out into the world to make his own thing work. But then when he tries to get his family, when he tries to have kids, he would tend to be too serious too, and plan everything. Leave the moon, try and do the planning for the partner. It might be too controlling that way, and the inhibition could come out of. So like, we almost are our fathers. We might react against it, but when someone comes close, we still have that pattern inside of us, so we have to grow through. That doesn't mean it's blocked. It just means there's part of the uniqueness of his energy. The Neptune is in the third house. He's got Sagittarius motivation, and it rises up. He's got the Scorpio on the cusp, but really the Neptune's in the third house. No bad aspects to it. Okay, it has a sextile to the Sun, to Mercury. It's really good for imagination, for visioning, for seeing things, for understanding languages, for seeing different ways. That Neptune's beautiful in the third house for traveling, for venturing. It's about personal mysticism and belief. That's very strong. There is one difficult aspect to come to it. It isn't drawn on the charts because I don't draw the aspects to the angles, which we'll get to. That Neptune will oppose the midheaven. So in his visions and his dreams, they're not practical, really business-wise. They're more dreamy, they're more creative, they're more inspirational, more of a social conscience to it. But it's no bad aspects. So other than that square, so he has a tendency to avoid just the career things, to be able to do the playful, creative, expressive things. Okay.